Hello friends, welcome to this third lecture on the course of consumer psychology. Now in the first two lectures what we looked at is what is consumer behavior and what are the factors which are responsible for consumer behaving in particular ways into the market. And we started those lectures by explaining the idea of what a product is and what is it that the consumer is actually looking into the market, and we outlined a major factor of study of consumer behavior, which was consumers are actually looking at benefits into the market and but they are not looking at the products. Then we moved on to explaining what type of consumers are there. So we explained three different type of consumers, which are shoppers, buyers, and consumers who actually go ahead and consume a product. Further to that, we looked into the total product concept, something which defines what a product has to offer to any consumer. And so there we looked at the four different rings which are there of any product. So starting with the core ring, where the major essential benefits of the product is, to the accessory ring, to the psychological ring, and to the ring of time, or the utility of time, which is explained through any product. Further to that, in the next lecture, we looked at something called the consumer decision process, and that is very important because any consumer into the market, he decides to buy a number of products which is available and which are giving him the same kind of benefits, all different products giving the same kind of benefits. So how does it decide? Now before that, we also looked at something called market segmentation, and the study was important. Why? Because we wanted to look at what is a market and how does different consumers are categorized into types or subtypes which require equal benefit, or which are looking at or looking for equal products into the market. Why was that necessary? That was necessary because marketers cannot manufacture products for each consumers differently, and so one thing that has to be studied, that is important in study of consumer behavior, is looking at how do marketers go ahead into the market and then define these segments, or basically classify people into same types, or types which are similar on basis of similarity. So the consumer decision process, we looked at a model of consumer decision process which is called the EKB model, the Engel, Kellart, and Blackwell model. And so in the EKB model, the model starts with looking at how consumers perceive information from the marketers into the market. And so several senses of the consumers, for example, the eyes, or the visual presentations or audio presentations, are given by the marketers, which are perceived by these consumers. Now these information which is let out by the marketers into the market for consumers to perceive come in forms of TV ads, in terms of newspaper ads, in terms of booklets, books, in-person information transfer, word of mouth transfer, and so many other ways which are there. So the first step was looking at different information which is available into the market, or the marketer puts out there into the market for consumer to perceive. The next step was information processing. So we looked at those variables which is inside the consumer, which is or sort of consumer psychology, which actually helps a consumer perceive this information which is let out by the marketer into the market. And so factors like memory, comprehension, attention, perception, all these factors combine together to form a bunch of factors which are very essential, because these factors help the consumers understand those information which are left out into the market by the marketer for them to perceive. Now these informations are essential because these informations help consumers decide what product to buy and what product not to buy, and how to differentiate between two products which are offering the same kind of benefit. The third step into this model was the consumer decision process, which has 5 steps into it. And so what we are going to do in the present lecture is look into this consumer decision process. So the first 2 steps of the consumer decision process is what we are going to actually look into in the present the lecture and the upcoming lecture after this. So this is lecture number 3, and in lecture number 4 we'll do a continuation of this particular lecture. So in this lecture, what we are going to look at is, once this information which the marketer has left and consumers using the psychological variables of memory, attention, perception, once they have gained this information from the market, how do they use this information, or what is the process that they use to differentiate between two products which are available in the market and which offer them the same kind of benefit. So that is what we are going to look. So the consumer decision process starts with something called recognition of need. The consumer has to recognize that he needs something, and further on to that he has to do something called information search, which is basically another step into the consumer decision process. So these are the two steps which we'll be looking into this in the next upcoming lecture. Further to that, once the information is available to consumers, they do something called alternate evaluation. They start a process of evaluation of different products, and from that make a final choice. And once the choice is been made by the consumer, he goes ahead and actually buys the product. Once he buys the product, there are only two options that can be there: a satisfaction or dissatisfaction. A third option is also been pointed out by some researchers, which is called cognitive dissonance. And all these options, all these results of the consumer decision process will lead to different kind of inputs. Now the decision process of the consumer of deciding between different products into the market is influenced by several psychological variables, and these variables are called the decision process variables, which is another part of the consumer decision model, the EKB model that we have been looking at. And so these are motivations, these are emotions, mood, attitudes, and so many other psychological variables which help the consumer decide between what product to buy and what product not to buy. And further to it, the last factor in the EKB model is called the external influences. So there are several external influences which help a consumer again decide what to buy and what not to buy, or how to buy and how not to buy. And so these external factors could be compliance with family influences, normative influences, social factors, and so many other factors from the external world around the consumer which helps in making the decision. So let's then start this particular lecture and understand what is the process of problem recognition, and how does problem recognition start, and how does information search start by the consumer. So we'll be detailing on those things. Now, as I explained to you, the consumer decision process is a 5-step process, and it goes by one by one. It goes through a process one by one, ends up into something called satisfaction or dissatisfaction. And so for products which are high involvement, all 5 processes of the consumer decision model are followed by the consumer in making the decision. Whereas a low involvement product, the same 5 steps cannot be or may not be involved. And any consumer decision process, when it ends, it can lead into either a satisfaction or dissatisfaction. If the consumer is satisfied after buying the product and using the product, he might come back to the product and start buying it again and again and become something called brand loyal. If he is not satisfied with the product, he might may not revert back to buying the product. So he may start his journey again, either from need recognition process, or he may enter into the search process of the consumer decision process model, and from there on again do alternative evaluation, do the choice, and then follow the process of satisfaction or dissatisfaction. If he is still not satisfied, the loop will go on again and again, and the consumer will be shifting between several products. And there are several consumers out there in the market who are not satisfied with the products which are there, and so they keep on shifting. And so they are not called blind loyals, they are called jumping consumers, or these are the consumers which each marketer is actually targeting. So then for a high involvement product, the consumer is likely uses all the 5 EKB model decision processes, as I said. And so high involvement products are those products which are requiring high time and high money. So this time that I'm talking about is not only the physical time which the consumer spends in understanding the product or interacting with the product, it is also psychological time. So both, and the money that I'm talking about is also both psychological money as well as physical money. So physical money is the currency that he gives, the psychological money is the investment of his time, investment of his labor, his mental states. All those things are composed of this psychological time and psychological money. So it's not only physical but psychological. So Let's assume that you are buying a new car which is very expensive, or not even expensive, you are buying a car. So once you're buying a car, it is not that everybody buys cars every year, right? Most people actually buy a car and some of them actually use it for the whole lifetime, but on an average most people use a car for at least 5 to 7 years and then they buy the new car. So when you are thinking of buying a car, it's a 7-year investment that you're going to do, and this 7 years, for the next 7 years you will be stuck with your car. And so once you're buying a car, you go through all. It's a high involvement product because your involvement is high and your time and money which you devote to it will be high. So most people, when they buy a car, what they do is they visit a number of showrooms first of all, and they look at all the models which are available. They jot down all the briefs that they get, all the technical information that they can get from different showrooms, look at different car magazines which has to offer, look at television advertisements, talk to a lot of friends who have bought car before, people who have experiences, and go around the market and talk to salesperson. So they do all these kind of process, all these kind of activities to gather information. And so since this is a high involvement product, because they don't want it to fail, so they cover a lot of ground into it. Also, since they are putting up a lot of money, most people generally buy a car on loan, and so they are putting a lot of money into it, so they do all this kind of process into high involvement product. And so in this case they go through all the 5 steps. They began the process and stay with it until it is complete. So basically, for a high involvement product, there are 3 things that can happen in if a consumer is starting a high involvement purchase through the consumer decision model. The first thing is, any consumer who's buying a high involvement product would start by looking at a product, by actually recognizing the need that he needs the product, and starting the search process for this product information, and then follow through all the 5 stages, and then come to the step where he is either satisfied or dissatisfied with the product. So basically he begins the process and stays with it until it is complete. This is one possibility that can happen. So for people who are buying a high involvement product, one possibility is that they start the process and they end the process and complete the process. There is a second step that can happen, or the second scenario which can happen for people who are high involvement people or buying a high involvement product, and they go through the EKB model. Here what happens is they start and stop and then complete. So what happens is, in this case, the consumer starts the process and then stops it in between, again restarts and stops it. So scenarios like, I'm interested in buying a car, but I don't have the required money right now, and I'm looking forward to buying it in the next 1 year or next 6 months. What I'll do is I'll start the process of search right now, and problem recognition has already been done, so I'll start the process of searching information. For the next 6 months I'll be searching all kinds of information which is there, and then when the money comes in, I'll again go into buying the product. So when I go into buying the product, it may happen that a new model comes in, and so the money may be sufficient or may not be sufficient, and so I stop and start and stop and start and stop and start, and then finally complete the process in many steps. So some kind of consumers actually work in this way. The third thing that can happen, the third possible scenario that can happen, is start and stop and never finish. And so in this cases, what would happen is, I think of buying a car, and so I wait for, say, let's 6 months, and the money is there with me, and then I have enough product information, or I'm particularly looking for a particular launch of a car, and so I'm waiting for it, and the launch of the new car is there, but the reviews are never good, and then later on realize that I don't need a car anymore because I might be moving, or some other thing has happened where I was gifted a car by someone, or something happens, and so I never finish this particular process of buying a car. So I do all kinds of search, I gather all the money, I do all the evaluation of brands which are there, price evaluation, make a final choice, but I never complete. Or it could be that I do the search and never do the brand evaluation, different evaluations, or any number of processes. So I start and stop and never finish actually the buying process. And the fourth is that I can start the process of this decision process of buying a high involvement product, and because of marketplace changes, return to an earlier step. And so it may happen that I think of buying a product, So I think of buying a particular brand of car which is out there. Then what really happens is that I gather the money. Within the next 6 months, I have all the money. The required evaluation has been done. I have looked at everything, and finally it so happens that the brand or the particular product that I'm looking for is no more available in the market. And so I go back to the earlier process of re-evaluating more brands which are available, or more products which are available. So it may be that a particular model has disappeared from the market, or is no longer manufactured, or has been reverted back in some way for some technical regularities or irregularities, and that may lead a negative effect on me, and so I never complete this process or return to an earlier step onto the decision process. For example, it could be this information search, it could be the process of doing alternative evaluation and choice, or it could also be the process of need recognition. So these are the 3 or 4 scenarios which can happen when I am going through all the 5 steps of the consumer decision model. And when I do that only when I am looking a high involvement product. So what is a high involvement product? A product which takes considerable amount of time and money, both physical and psychological, from me, or makes me involved with it, and that's what a high involvement product is. On the other hand, as a low involvement product, where the consumer typically goes directly from problem recognition to choice. So for example, buying a salt, or buying some potato chips packet, or maybe a kind of biscuit. Now for these kind of products, I really don't need to do enough search into the market and do alternate evaluation and all those kind of information search for the product. And so what may happen is that in these kinds of products, I realize that I am hungry, I want to buy chips, so I'll go to the market, I'll go to the shop, I'll look at different brands of chips, and with very less information or very less usage of the mind, what I'll do is I'll pick up one of the chips packet and tear it and start eating it. So either I get satisfied with it or I don't get satisfied with it, but this is what the process is. So I start and I stop at a particular point, or at a particular stage, which is the satisfaction or dissatisfaction. So these are the 2 scenarios which can happen through the consumer decision options. Now let's look at the first stage in the consumer decision process, which is called problem recognition. Now to start the whole process of consumer decision process, the person first has to have a need, right? So first of all, we should recognize that we need something, and as economics models say, that rational people, or the expected utility models in economics say that rational people only buy things when they need. But then there is a different view of the psychological version of this expected utility model, which is proposed by Tversky and Kahneman, and they say that people also buy things just for the fact of not utilization, but for the fact of aesthetic keep, right? So people sometimes buy a product because they don't need it in the way that economics define need, but they need it because for aesthetic, for a higher psychological purpose, for showmanship, for just keeping it, for increase in their social dimension, increase in their social status, and so on and so forth. So people buy different products because they have a particular need. And so the first step that starts the process of this consumer decision model, or consumer decision process is, or the first stage is, something called need recognition. So people have to realize that they have a need. Now it is as easy as understanding that I am hungry and I want food, or it is as difficult as recognizing that I need a car, and I need this car from going from point A to B, not only from going from point A to B, but I also need something which is giving me social status, a kind of positive belief, and also raising my status in a certain way. So this is the first step that is there, and so that starts with the understanding, or with the realization that I have a need. Now if consumers don't have need, they will not go into the market, and so this need recognition can be in any number of ways. For example, somebody who's let's say moving from the school to a college, And so when he moves to the school from the college, he suddenly develops a need of buying a laptop computer. Now this happens because in a school it is perfectly okay to use the school computer or to use the computer which is at home, and maybe at times it is not even necessary till the school life to use a computer. But when you go out into a college, there are things that you need to do, there are problems that need to be solved, and other things that you need to have, and that's why you need a computer. And so you realize the need that when you're moving away from school to college and you're moving away from your house to some other place where you live alone, the computer is needed because it acts now as a medium of communication between the, not only the medium of communication between the parents and you, but also it helps you in solving your everyday problems as well as your academic problems. And so there the need arises, or it could be a simple need of buying a cell phone because you're moving away from house. So when you are living with your parents, the need for cell phone is not that much, but when you move away to your college, or you're moving to a different city altogether for higher studies, you need a cell phone. It's not only for talking, but it is for social networking and so many other things that you need it. And so that is what the need is. So need arousal is a stage in which a consumer realizes that he needs something and this is eminent on him. The second step is that we start the process to find the product or service that will deliver the benefits and feel the need to solve the problem. So once a need has arisen, once we let's take the case of a student, of a male student or a female student, just a student who's moving away from his house to study at a college which is distant from his house. And so now what has happened is the need arose from a cell phone. Now the need for the cell phone arises because this person is moving away from his school, from his family, to a different town where he has to complete his undergrad and postgrad degrees. Now for that, the cell phone is necessary not only for him for getting connected back to his family, but it will also be needed because that cell phone will help him in several things. For example, maintaining a social status, doing a social evaluation, and doing some other kind of things like on the go editing of files, or maintaining a social advantage, or whatever we are looking at. So several things the cell phone is going to do. And so when that is there, the first step they do is that they start finding products and services which deliver them the benefit to benefit and feel the need to solve the problem. So this student who is moving away and needs a cell phone, he'll go into the market and start searching for all those products which are available, all those companies which are available, which which provide a cell phone, because he's looking for the cell phone. And so he starts looking at the products and services, companies, various companies which provide the cell phone to him and offers the kind of thing which is there. So it's not only the cell phone, he'll also look at plans, data plans or voice plans and so on and so forth, which is the cheapest for use, which is gives him the highest stability, the highest number of data packets, so that he maintains his social status, he maintains his social environment, and also gets connected with his parents, talks to them every day, and so on and so forth. So not only the cell phone, but the network, plus the network plans, plus the usage plans, plus so many other things, plus extended warranty, extended liability, and so many other things with that. So when does a problem arise? Now the problem arises, understanding that there is a need for anything happens when there is a difference between something called the actual and the desired state. Now so psychological process through which we evaluate the difference between our actual state and our desired state is what makes us understand that there is a need. Now the actual state is that state that a person is particularly in. So the student that we are talking about, when he is moving away from his house to some other place, to some other city for getting his education, his actual state is living with the family, not having a cell phone, and so that is what is there, having just the basic phone, and everything is covered by his family. Now once he realizes that he has to go away to some other place, so the basic idea of connectivity from his family creates the desired state. And so the difference between the actual state where he has no cell phone to the desired state where he has a cell phone and has the connectivity, and not only have the cell phone but has a cell phone plan where he has the connectivity, now has a social life and has a social network, can do social networking, is what the desired state is. So the difference between what he is right now and what he will become after buying the cell phone is the difference that we are talking about, and that is the difference between the actual state and the desired state. Now, comparison of our current needs and benefits state with what we would like to be is what is the basic underlying meaning between the understanding of the need. Now, the greater the perceived distance between these two, the more clearly the consumer recognizes the potential need. Now, the more difference that a consumer sees between his actual state and the desired state, the more chances that he will actually buy the product, or the higher the need recognition will be. So, let us assume that there are two people out there who go into the market for buying a car. One of them lives in a university campus, has a bicycle and can bicycle around, and can go from his home to the to his academic department and come back. So, he is a professor. On the other end, there is someone who actually works somewhere else out of this campus, say at a distance of 40-50 kilometer, which he has to go every day. And so, for the first person, the difference between, so even if he doesn't buy a car, the difference between the actual state and the desired state, where he has a car and where he doesn't have a car, the perceived distance is very less, because no matter what happens, the distance of his house from his academic department is just 1.5 to 2 kilometers, which can be covered every day by just walking or bicycling. So, it is not needed that much. Of course, the car would be needed in different situations of emergency, and so this distance can be managed. But on the other hand, the person who has a work which is 50-60 kilometers from where he is living, for him, if he doesn't has a car, he has to go through all sorts of public transports and get his time wasted into changing public transports and reaching his place of work. So, for him, buying a car is actually the desired state, and not buying the car is the actual state. And so, once he buys a car, all these problems will be solved. And so, the more distance that he has between the perceived state, so once he buys a car, a lot of problem will be solved. And so, the distance between the actual state and desired state will be high, because once he has a car, a lot of problem will be solved for him. And so, the distance between his and right now in the actual state, a lot of problems exist. So, buying the car actually makes a lot of difference, which is the perceived distance. So, larger perceived distances make the consumer realize the need immediately and buy the product, but smaller perceived distances actually do the opposite of that, with a very small need to recognize the problem recognition and opportunity cost. So, it's not only the difference between the actual state and the desired state which actually makes a consumer realize that there is need generation, there is a need for buying something. There are chances where certain opportunities come across, and so people realize that they need something. So, what are those? Let's say that you are one of those people who is a camera freak, right? And so, you love taking pictures. You're one of those people who are always behind a camera, is a enthusiast of photography, loves to do photographs, submits your photographs to several journals and competitions, and so on, so forth, and you are completely satisfied with your old camera. You have a camera, a Nikon or any other camera, Canon, and you are completely satisfied with this camera, and there is no need to buy a new camera. There is no need as such. But then suddenly what happened is you see an offer with a powerful lens and start imagining. So, what happens? You go into the marketplace and suddenly you see that the company you have the camera, say Nikon is offering a additional lens or additional system of lenses which can better your camera, or which can help your camera in certain way, or is offering you some kind of a device or some kind of an addition onto your old camera, which can actually help you into taking more brighter and more lifelike pictures. Now that you see the opportunity, so you are satisfied with the camera, but then when you go into the marketplace, you see that your company or some other company is offering you a better camera. So, your company is offering you some additional benefits, some kind of very good lenses which are there, and you start imagining to buy that lens. And so, this particular thing is called the opportunity recognition. You suddenly realize that these kind of lenses which are being offered are, and also in terms of a sale, or also in terms of lower prices, actually present you with the opportunity to buy some of these lenses at very cheap prices. And not only with very cheap prices, it actually will help you in developing your interest further and clicking very good photographs. And so, this is called the opportunity cost. So, the consumer does not perceive a problem, but perceive an opportunity that leads to a comparison between actual state and new desired state. Now, in this case, when we started, we had no need for a new camera or no need for upgrading the camera because I was particularly satisfied with it. But suddenly when I go into the market, I find out the company that I have been using the camera of, that particular company has offered or is offering a new set of lens which is on sale, which is on lower prices, and this I realize is going to enhance the particular thing hobby that I have, which is of taking photographs. And so I realize that there is a need, and so need recognition is because the company is offering the opportunity, not because I want to buy a new camera, right? And so now I start seeing the change between the desired state and the actual state, and that leads to the difference between the desired state and actual state. So sometimes it is certain opportunities in the market which actually help you realize this. Now there are several influences, there are several factors which influence problem recognition into the market, and so what we'll do is we'll look into these factors one by one. So there can be influences from the situations that people get into, and that lets them understand that a particular problem is there, or a difference between the actual and desired state is, or there can be certain market related factors which can actually help them realize that they have a difference between they see a difference between the actual and desired state, or it could be just something within the consumer, some influences from the consumer himself which will realize that there is a difference between the actual state and the desired state that they want to go to, the actual state that they are, and they realize that the problem is there. So we'll start first with something called the situational influences, which are those factors which are in the situation itself in a buying process, which actually makes current consumers realize that they have a problem or they have a difference between the actual and desired state. So the first thing is replace products that are broken, lost, or worn out. Now sometimes it happens, there are such a situations happens, you have a particularly beautiful camera and suddenly what happens is the camera either gets lost or it gets broken down or it is worn out. So it's taking pictures but not very good pictures, or it may happen that you leave the camera somewhere behind, or it gets lost, or somebody steals it, a thief steals it, or you leave it behind, or some other things happen. And so that situation is a situation where you realize that you need a particular product, and so that situation can make you identify that you need a new camera, and so need recognition immediately is there. So situations in which you have old product, the product that you have been using, either it is broken down, it is lost, or it is worn out, makes you realize that you need a product. Another factor which can help you realize that you need a product or there is a difference between the actual and desired state is the product acquisition leads consumers to recognize new needs. Suppose you buy a particular product, and so this product is very good, or whatever you have bought is actually very good, but then this products need some other product, and that makes you realize that you need a different product. For example, I buy a 55-inch very good television, LED television, and so I'm very happy. I bring it home, but I realize that the sound that it is giving is, although it is Dolby Digital, but the sound from the television set is not very good, and so immediately I realize the need for good home theater speakers, because a 55-inch television is no good with very good sound, and the speakers on the television set will not be enough for doing it. And that's been probably what has been happening with the MI series of TVs which have come up, which is very cheap, very good, but the speakers are placed in such a way that the sounds are not very good. So that's what some of the reviews say, and so it immediately tells you to buy a new home theater system which gets associated with your TV, which of course doesn't come with your TV, but you suddenly make this realization, or a need develops that you have to buy a new set of speakers, because this set of speakers which is used with the new TV will give you a different kind of a thought itself, or a different kind of a pleasure itself. The third factor which can actually involve, or which makes you realize that you need a product, or there is a difference between the actual state and desired state, is change circumstances leads us to pursue new needs. So in this case what happens is sometimes you change places, or certain circumstances around you change, and that makes you realize that you need product. And so remember the example that I've been giving before. Now the student example, now you graduate and you're going to a new school, and suddenly you realize that you need a new smartphone or a new mobile, or it may so happen that in certain situations you are switching between jobs or switching between different houses, or it may be that your old house is not worth living, and so you think of new houses, and so that gives you the realization that you will need more furnitures, more things to be looking at, or it may be possible that you get a job overseas somewhere else, and so no realizations on new things will be there, and so that gives you the opportunity to realize that you have new needs. So any change in situation, be it it has to be generally an external situation, so be it change in family income, change in place, change in time, change in job, whatever we're looking at. So any kind of change of the external nature which you realizes, which makes you realize that new things have to be brought in, additional things have to be brought in, creates a need for buying new things, and that is one of the situational factors which make you realize that you have a new need, and you start searching for information for that particular new need. The second set of process that actually helps you, a consumer, realize that he has needs of buying new products, or that there is a difference between the actual state and the perceived state, are something called consumer influences. So there are certain consumer factors which actually also make people realize that they have a need for buying a particular product, or they should be looking for, or they really need a new product. So actual state consumers look for existing goods and services, whereas desired state consumers look for new products. So those consumers which are so within the consumer realm itself, there are two kind of consumers. We have something called actual state consumers, and we have something called desired state consumers. So actual state consumers are those consumers which are very happy with their old product. So these consumers, when they are highly satisfied with their product, they look for existing goods and services, and so when they are when they miss out something, or when the product gets lost, broken, or something happens with them, they actually look for the same products or the existing goods and services. So these people try to find out what is new into their product, or what can be done new with their product, or look for their product only when replacing a product. Whereas desired state consumers are those which actually look for new products. So once desired state consumers are those consumers which actually are in the market for buying new product, they are not happy with the existing product, and they start looking for the new product. Now a sense of drive to action, which is motivation, a consumer experiences once a problem or need has been recognized. So once a problem or need has been recognized, the consumer realizes a motivation to buy that particular problem, or to go for more search process. So there are certain motivations, there are certain reasons why the consumer actually looks for new products. There are certain motivations which make the consumer look for new products into the market, and so these motivations are basically categorized into 5 different types. And once they buy the new product, or they buy the existing products, they stuck with the existing product, buy the new product, buy the existing product itself, they feel the relief from buying that particular product. And so the motivations, the reasons, the arousals, or the drive to actions which lead them looking for new products, or looking for the desirability of a product, are 5 in nature. Optimizing satisfaction. Some people are out there in the market, and they look for products, or look for buying things because they want to optimize satisfaction, and so they realize that the product that they have been having is not actually giving them the optimal satisfaction, and so they are looking for products which will provide them the optimal satisfaction. And so some people in the market, or some consumers in the market, are who are looking for product, are there because of the motivation of optimal satisfaction. So let's say I have a smartphone and it is wonderful to use, but then it is not giving the kind of satisfaction that I am looking for. Maybe it's not giving me, it has a very nice camera which I am looking for. If I am a camera enthusiast and I am looking for a good camera, the mobile phone is very good, but it has no good camera, and so I look into the market for new smartphones because the phone that I presently have doesn't have good cameras. And that is one reason why there are phones in the market which are advertised on camera. For example, a Nokia N8 was basically introduced into the market, which had very good camera, or brands like Oppo and Vivo into the market are there, which are focusing their phone, or which are advertising their phone based on to the camera. They say it's a camera phone, right? And so the camera has been highlighted. So it may be possible, or one reason why consumers are now into the market, one of the motivation for them to be into the market for looking for new products is basically optimizing satisfaction. And once they buy a good camera phone, they are optimally satisfied. The other second reason why a consumer would be into the market, or those consumer influences, which basically means the consumer reasons why they of arousing the need, is basically to prevent possible future problem. So sometimes consumers go into the market to buy products because they don't want future problems to be there. So all those people into the market who are refilling their inkjet printers, inks onto the inkjet printers, or refilling the papers onto the printers, or refilling groceries into their home, are why they're doing it. They're doing it so that future problems do not actually occur, so that they don't get into problems in future. And so these people are there into the market, or the need for the arousal of need for these people in the market is because they don't want future problems to occur, and so they are into the market buying things, or they realize the need for buying. So third is escaping from a problem. Now sometimes consumers actually buy products so that they escape from a upcoming problem which is there. So I see my camera which is very good, but I realize that there is a crack onto the lens, so I buy a new set of lens so that the camera doesn't actually go ahead and get broken. And so sometimes consumers are there into the market, and they are looking into the market because they want to escape from a upcoming problem which is there, or something which is a problem which is coming, and so they realize the need to buy things. At times consumers are there into the market because they want to resolve conflict. So it may happen that somebody wants to buy a car, and he goes, and so the husband and wife both go to buy a car, and so suddenly the husband realizes that he wants to buy a very good car which has very good mechanics, very good kind of engine power, and so on and so forth. But the wife on the other hand is looking at design, and so the need for an optimal resolution of conflict, so need for buying a product which satisfied both comes in. And so sometimes consumers are into the market because they want to resolve conflicts. And so if the husband thinks of buying a car which is basically not onto not offering very good shape, but offering you very good engine power, but the wife is pressing to buy a car which has a very good shape, or very good dimension, or leather seats, and so that kind of features, what they tend to do is they tend to buy a product which satisfied both of them. And so the need here arises because they want to resolve a conflict between the husband and wife, or between any number of parties which is there. And sometimes consumers, or some motivations which make consumer go into the market or realize that a need is there, is to maintain satisfaction. So sometimes consumer into the market because they want to maintain certain level of satisfaction, and so for maintaining the satisfaction, the need arouses and he buys new things, so the level of satisfaction which is been having stays there with him, or is there with him for a longer period of time. Now there are certain market related factors which actually will also help in problem recognition, or which also influences how problem recognitions, or how people actually realize that they have new problems or they have new needs. And so these marketing influences are: marketing information will lead the consumer to reevaluate his or her actual desire states. So sometimes when you are into the market, something there in the market makes you realize that you have a new need, that you have a need for something, and you realize an immediate chance to buy new products. And so one of these is price information. Price information can be influential. Sometimes you come to the market and you realize that there is a sale, or there is a drop in price of certain products which is there in the market, and so that makes you buy things or hoard things together. So realize all those trips to Big Bazaar or the nearest shopping center, and on those Wednesdays, which is the Sabse Sasta Din kind of a tagline which this Big Bazaar has. So why do they have it? Because when consumers realize that the price is dropping, where the price is low, they run into the market to buy products, because they want to take this opportunity and realize the need that the product is there, and they want to buy it. Another thing from the marketer, or another factor from the marketer, points of view, or the market point of view, which makes you realize that the need is there, is promotional activities. For example, certain kind of advertisings, certain coupons which is there, free offers, sweepstakes, product demonstrations, rebates, all these things which is in the market. So you go into the market, there are people giving you coupons, free coupons of take something and buy something with it, 50% off kind of a thing, certain kind of advertising which pulls you towards certain kind of products. So certain kind of dynamic advertising which is there, or free offers, so buy something and get something free with it, buy two get three kind of a thing, buy two Levi's jeans, get a Levi's jeans free out of it, or buy one get two free. Well, that doesn't happen, but that could also be one of the things which is there. Or product demonstration, sometimes there are products which is out there and it is demonstrated in such a way, there are people who are demonstrating the product, that is a immediately. For example, one of the things which India has never been able to capture is something called the dishwasher. Now when I bought my first dishwasher, the reason was I went into the market and I realized that the way they were demonstrating, the way the company was demonstrating, it immediately appealed to me that I need this. And so it happens to most people when they go there and see a product which is out there, when they don't know whether this product is of use or not, but the kind of demonstration that the serviceman gives, that makes him realize that the product is important and he needs it, and so he goes ahead and buys it. So certain kind of demonstrations, certain kind of advertising in the market or coupons in the market makes people realize that they need product. Or product and service developments can trigger a reassessment of actual and desired state. It may so happen that you have the LCD TV, that was an old technology, and so with LCD TV everything was very good, but then the LED came in, and so this improvement from the LCD to the LED make you realize that you need a new television, right? And so now you have the UHD TV, and then you have something called the AMOLED TV. So basically what is happening is, as new products are being developing, as new products are coming to the market, it makes you or gives you the chance to look at better services, to look at better things which are all around, to look at better benefits from the product, and so you re-evaluate your status and think of buying new products, or a new need is recognized. For example, when I brought my first LED TV, the LCDs were out there, and so I had an old LCD TV, but I realized that the LED gives you more lights, or it stays there for more period of time. And now even a year and 2 years have not passed, there is the UHD and the AMOLED TVs. And so this developments of products, this development of any product which is out there, which sometimes creates needs in people to buy newer products which is there. Place of action can trigger need recognition, and sometimes what happens is there are certain plays of actions. What is the what is the place that this advertisements are? Sometimes it is very near to you, and so sometimes these places where this demonstration are there can actually lead to real recognition. So for example, it may happen that you enter the market and the marketer says that my people will visit your house and then demonstrate everything into your house, or they will show you how it works into your house. And so with the ease of it, or sometimes marketers send people with products into your house to show how easily things can be done. And so this place of action where in your comfort of your own home they show you things, that also sometimes makes you develop that a new product is there, a product is there which you need. For example, buying water filters. So these AquaGuard people you'll see running around with their machines, they go from house to house and demonstrate that this is the need. And at the house itself, at the comfort of your house, you realize that somebody is delivering you something which is going to, you don't have to go anywhere, and they are delivering you, giving you enough information. So you realize that a need is there for a water filter. And so this is one other reason, a market reason, or basically market based reason, which makes you realize that you have a need, and the difference is there between your actual and desired state, which is having the water filter and not having the water filter. And so as you see the distance to be more, you realize that a need is there, and so need recognition happens. Now once a need recognition happens, once you realize that you have a product, be it from any of the factors, whether it is a situational factor, whether it has to do with the consumer factor, your own factors, your own motivations make you buy a particular thing, or it could be a market factor. Once a need has been developed, the consumer does a thorough search process of all the information of the product which is out there. Right. So once you realize that you have a need for a particular product, what you tend to do, what most people tend to do, is look for information, search for information to the market for those products. So marketplace information is all around us, and consumers can do consumers can and do search for and find information on products in many ways. So basically, when you are looking of or when you realize that a need is there for a particular product, or you realize that you need to buy a particular product, and the need has been established, the next step that you do is search for information. And this information that we're looking for is all around the marketplace, all around us. The marketplace is full of it, be it advertisements which is there, be it TV advertisements, be it radio advertisements, be it billboard displays, be it salesperson which is displaying a particular product, or be it superstores which are actually showing you information about the product or product related information, be it consumer magazines, be it newspapers, be it editorial articles on the internet, be it anything. So the whole process, the whole place around you in the market has all kinds of information for all kinds of products. All you need to do is search, and consumers can do search for and find information of product in many ways. So it could be looking at advertisements, it could be also talking to people who have used the product. So you can talk to people who have used the product, or those experts who have used the product, and that can also lead you to basically realizing that you need the product, or you needed the product, and so you can get more information from them. It could be through the word of mouth. A friend or relative would say that this product is good, and you would think of buying it. Or it could be as simple as looking at an advertisement, a paper advertisement which tells you about the product, or it could be going into a superstore and realizing that you need the product. So there can be several ways in which you get this information. Now different consumers look for different amounts and types of information. Now the thing is, once this has been done, a marketer has to realize that all consumers are not same. So different consumers have different abilities, and based on that, different consumers require different kind of information which is there. For the same product, some consumers are looking for just basic information, and for some other consumers would be looking for more information. For example, look at cooking oil. Now when I'm looking at cooking oil, people who are health conscious will be looking at each part of the cooking oil, what it is composed of, how much calories it is giving, what it is made up of, how much it is its density, how much is the quantity, and so on and so forth. On the other end, somebody who's not that much health conscious will only look at different kind of oils which is there, and may only buy the oil based on price, or maybe some information that is there. So different consumers which is out there require different kind of information and different amounts of information which is out there. So consumers often combine the information search with alternative evaluation. And so why do they do the information search? The information search is being done because when they are comparing two brands, they can do a very good alternate evaluation, because this search information actually leads to the alternate evaluation. So more search of information, whenever consumer is searching an information, what he's doing is, not only is he searching more information on the product that he is targeted on or he has zeroed in, but he is also looking for alternate products which are there, and he is constantly doing this process of alternate evaluation with him. So what is going to help us? Now if we know these 4 or 5 things, it will actually help us in the search process. First, why consumers are searching for information? So for marketers, what happens is that, as I said, that there are different consumers and they require different information. There are certain factors which actually will help the marketer in putting the information out there. And one of the thing is why consumers are searching for information. So the marketer exactly knows what is it, why is the consumer actually searching for information, and looking for any product related fact, is that will help the manufacturer to put in different kinds of information. Now if it is only for a surface level problem solving, that he is looking for information, surface level problem identification, that he is looking for the information, then a very narrow information is to be provided. But if a consumer is an expert, he is looking for information on the product in a deep level, a more thorough example or a booklet can be provided to him with more number of information. Where are they looking? If the marketers come to know where is it that the consumer is actually looking for information, whether it is he is looking at the television or the visual media, or if he is looking at newspapers for information, this will help him put more advertisements out there and put the advertisement at a strategic place, put the information at a strategic place, so that they can be accessed. What information are they looking for? Now, what is the content of information? Are they looking for details? hardcore hardware details, or they are looking for style information, or they are looking for performance, or they are looking for some other factor. So whatever information that they are looking for, if that is available with the marketer, what he can do is provide that information and provide them as at a place which is easily available. And also when the marketer comes to know where is it that they're looking for information, what he could do is he could make the information easily available, right? So maybe put it at the front page of a newspaper so that it is accessible, or provide a pamphlet, give someone a pamphlet. So you would have seen small kids standing outside stores giving you pamphlets about product information. And so this is one easy way for you to give you the example, to give you the information about a particular product, how extensively they are willing to search. And sometimes marketers also need this information, that how extensive people are actually looking for information, or how extensive they are willing to search. If the consumer is not willing to search extensively, then the information has to be very little, has to be surface level information and provided very easily. But if the consumer is looking for extensive information, or is willing to do extensive search for the information, more information can be provided to him in a particular way. So we can identify potential consumers and their information needs. And so one important thing that we can do is we can find out who are the potential consumers. We can create a profile of the consumers from the needs that they have there. From once I understand what needs they have, and we can actually create information from needs. So we could have consumers who are looking for superficial information, consumers who are looking for deep information, consumers who are looking for aesthetic information, consumers who are looking for some other kind of information, and create 4 or 5 versions of the same information about the product and display or send it to the marketplace. So those consumers who are looking for whatever it is, there will be a match and they will be satisfied with the information which is there. So within the search itself, there are different kind of search that the consumers can do. So once the need has been recognized, and once consumers have realized that through either the situational factors or consumer factors or market factors that they have space between the desired space and actual space, or desired state and actual state, then they start searching for more information of the product into the market, and this is called information search. Now there are several types of information search which is there. The first kind of search is called the pre-purchase information search. Now in the pre-purchase information search, what happens is we search for information before the actual purchase of the information, and so there are 3 or 4 types of there, which is directed information search, or purposeful and deliberate. So one kind of pre-purchase search, generally most pre-purchase search start before we actually buy a product. So it is immediately after the need recognition, but before making the alternate evaluation and choice, and before buying the product. And so one way of doing the pre-purchase search is something called directed information search. Now in directed information search, we actually go to those places where we are very sure to find the information. For example, if I am looking for car information, I go to car showrooms, I go to a mechanic shop, I go to those consumer magazines which are car related. For example, Autocar is one magazine which provides you car information, or I go to those internet web bulletins or websites which are providing you car related information, right? So that is called directed information. There can be another kind of search which is called browsing, which may eventually lead to purchasing. Second kind of information search is called browsing. Here the consumer is not directed towards a particular product, and so he browses through, he goes through several kinds of products which is there, several varieties of products which is there, and from there he collects information about all of them, and then finally he decides to buy one of them. And the third is something called accidental information search. Here what happens is a consumer who is not looking for anything in particular is drawn to a particular product. So here what happens is you are there, and just because the fact that you are there, some company is offering something, and you two were never meant to be together, but you are at the right place at the right time, and so what happens is you get to know something about a particular product which you were never looking for. And so these are called accidental information search. So 3 kinds of information search which is in the pre-purchase information category, which is the directed information, the browsing, and the accidental information search. Now there is another kind of search which happens, which is called the post-purchase information search. Now once somebody has bought a particular product and is either satisfied or dissatisfied with it, he can still go on looking at the particular product or finding more information about the product that he already has. Now consumer who has already made a purchase continues to gather information and or reevaluates other options. Why he does that? He does that either to improve things on his product, either to know more things about the product that he has brought, or to gain more information about the product that he has brought, or look for alternate availability of products which are better than his present product, and so on and so forth. And so this is one reason why a post purchase search is done. Even when you have a product and you are fully satisfied with it, consumers go into the market searching for more information through the existing product or the need for the product. And a third kind of search which is possible is called the ongoing search. Here what really happens is that the consumer observes and stay current with what is happening. So these are those consumers which actually are either real consumers, in the sense that they have bought the product, or they are willing to buy the product, or sometimes they are not even willing to buy the product, but they are doing the information search because they want to stay current with whatever is happening, whatever products are there in the market, and these are called experts. So experts are those people who do ongoing search. So and this ongoing search can be or can be at the pre-purchase stage, can be at the post-purchase stage, or can be anywhere in between. So it's a search for information about particular product which is an ongoing phase. So in the present lecture, what we did was we looked at what is basically information problem recognition. What is the factors which helps you into recognizing that you have a problem, or recognizing that you have a need for a particular product. So we looked at those factors, and after that we also looked at some of these factors of what, once a need has been recognized, once a consumer realizes that they need a particular product, how do they actually go ahead and do the search. In the upcoming fourth lecture, we look into all those strategies of search, all those factors in information search of particular product, and how this search is actually taking place, or how this search actually takes place. So these two factors, which is problem recognition and information search, are the first two factors of the consumer decision process, which is required for any consumer to be undergoing through for making any kind of purchase and making any kind of getting any kind of benefit from any product into the market. So I'll see you again in the next lecture, and we'll discuss more about how the consumer actually searches for information about products that he is interested in buying, or he is looking forward into the real market. Thank you.